Raoul Pal just released some news that shocked the crypto market, and I think it's going to make a lot of Sui holders really, really happy. So I want to talk a little bit about that today. I also just want to talk about some other news that's going on in the Sui ecosystem. Honestly, all tremendously positive and bullish news for Sui. So I want to talk about all of that because there's some pretty crazy things happening. So we'll also go over what's going on in the market, all that type of stuff as well. I know that over the past day or so, we have seen a little bit of a pullback. And so I want to discuss that in more detail, make sure that we're approaching it from a reasonable and rational perspective. So anyway, we'll go on ahead, we'll dive right in. And first off, we'll take a look at kind of how Sui price has been doing. Now, of course, over the past 24 hours has not been particularly great for Sui. We can see down about 5.3%. But if you look at it with context into the rest of the wider market, it doesn't look so bad anymore, does it? And I think that's what's important to understand and what's important to focus on here is we're seeing that, yes, Sui is having a little bit of a pullback, but as has been essentially commonplace basically over the past probably 18 months so far, Sui, the crypto market goes up, Sui goes way up. Crypto market goes down, Sui goes down a little bit, right? I mean, so it's been a fantastic project to hold so far. It's essentially outperforms when it gains and it outperforms when it loses too. So it's been a really, really good coin to hold. And so far that doesn't really look like it's going to be stopping anytime soon. We do have that news from Raoul Pal that is going to be, in my opinion, a pretty big shakeup to the crypto ecosystem, particularly positively for Sui. So Sui right now is looking to be one that could be a bit of a sleeper here. So if we do look at the chart, we can kind of see exactly that. Let's actually pull this into full screen. And we can see, obviously we had this multi-month pullback. This is kind of like, from inauguration day onward, we saw a little bit of that, that drop. And then we've obviously seen a pretty nice rebound. We've reclaimed kind of this $3.15 range. It's been a pretty decent level of liquidity, both before we had this kind of recent pump, as well as during this recent pump. We can see, it served as a pretty strong level of support. It also served as, I wouldn't say a super strong level of support, but definitely a point of liquidity in both directions, kind of prior to this most recent pump as well. So things looking pretty good there from a chart perspective. We can see RSI actually just creeping below the neutral mark on the RSI. I mean, really, it's neutral if we're doing rounding, but it's looked pretty good. I mean, it's obviously had a little bit of a pullback here. The RSI has been recovering as price has been coming back down. We also can see on the Bollinger Bands right now we're sitting at about in the middle, but we did kind of pull from the top to the bottom. So there was a pretty strong level of pullback there. Right now, though, we obviously have reclaimed this strong level of support. Maybe we do kind of come back down and bounce into it. We'll have to see for sure. But I think right now we're sitting in a decently looking spot from a technical perspective. Of course, Bitcoin is the 800-pound gorilla in the room. So if Bitcoin decides to nuke tomorrow, it will be taking most of the alts with it, including Sui. So, that is something that we all do kind of need to be prepared for, because that is an outcome that is possible for sure. So, but now moving on to the news of the day, which is honestly really impressive news. We have this announcement here from Raoul Pal. Big things are coming at Real Vision. Essentially, he goes talking about the project or the product that they're trying to build. They're leveraging Miston Labs and the Sui Foundation to essentially help build their new product. This new product essentially is going to be a much more like connected and interactive way to essentially like drive user engagement. So we can see here, the vision is to create a digital on-chain identity, a tokenized loyalty ecosystem, embedded wallets, on-chain trade ideas, and research notes, and eventually trade executions. So essentially, this is almost kind of like a social TradeFi type of thing. Kind of interesting. We can see here this will evolve into a tokenized, crowdsourced asset management layer enhanced by AI-driven user interfaces and designed around communities that form naturally around assets, tickers, styles, regions, and more. So that does not make us Sui maximalists or even Sui biased. We remain fiercely independent and committed to covering everything that matters across macro, crypto, and traditional finance. I think this is them kind of addressing some of the tribalism and naturally some of the upset people that would be coming, namely right here, from Ethereum and Solana NFT communities. But essentially, this is very, very interesting news because, of course, Raoul Pal has made a lot of his name off of covering Ethereum and Solana projects, namely. Sui is kind of the new kid on the block, so there's not really, there hasn't been much of a history to cover there. And so I think the fact that they are choosing the Sui network, despite all of their previous history with other other projects and other ecosystems, I think says a lot for the Sui network. And I think it makes it very, very clear just how superior it needs to be from a technological standpoint, the team, all that type of stuff. Now, this of course is not to say that Ethereum is bad and Solana is bad and they're all going to zero. I think this is more to highlight the level of potential mispricing that we might see on the chart. Now, of course, Solana is somewhere in the range of 100 billion. I think they're closer to 60 or 70 after the recent sell-offs, but they're up there. And then we also, of course, have Ethereum, which is like 400 billion. I haven't checked recently, but also up there and doing quite well as well. We then have Sui, who's down at like, I think 20 or 25 billion, something like that. So, I mean, it's massively mispriced. Even if we just catch up to what we'd be seeing out of Solana, that's about a three-ish X, depending on kind of what happens within the market. Assuming the market gets bullish and Solana goes back to, it starts to catch back up again, that means it's probably from here looking to be about a, 5, 6, 7X maybe. And so, because, Sui would need to essentially outcompete that and, overgain it, if that's a word. I don't know, but hopefully you see what I'm getting at here, and kind of just really the important and bullish news that's coming out of this is people are building on Sui, not for tribalism reasons, not for maximalism reasons, but because it just makes sense. And so, obviously we can debate, whether Sui is the natural endpoint or if there's going to be other things coming after, or, things like that. Of course, that's always a conversation that can be had, but at least right now, it does look like there are a lot of people who are looking to build on Sui for whatever that reason is. You can speculate on that in the comment section below. But anyway, I think it's really, really interesting news, and I think it's honestly fantastic news for Sui, just especially given who Raoul Pal is and his impact within the crypto space and a lot of that type of stuff. Now, before we move on to the second piece of news for the day, I did just want to go back and take a quick look at BloFin. If you are interested in trading Sui or any other crypto for that matter, I do have that link to BloFin in the description below. BloFin is a fantastic exchange. I've just actually started partnering with them recently. They are doing a limited time offer that does expire in 2 days. So if you are interested, you do need to be quick about it, because after that, the new promotion that we are doing is gone. And that is 15% bonuses on first time deposits. It's a really, really good deal. This is actually better than the one that we have with BTCC. BTCC, of course, still in the description below if you are interested in looking at something different from BloFin. But at least right now, for the next 2 days, we do have kind of that limited time offer for that 15% deposit bonus. So if you are interested, go ahead, check out the link in the description below, get signed up. It's been a really, really nice trading platform. And yeah, if you're interested, looking for a place to try it out, feel free. And then also, they've got trading bots, they've got demo trading. If you're not feeling comfortable with leverage trading, again, if you're not feeling comfortable with leverage trading, do not do it. It is risky. Just feel free to try demo trading, trade with paper money. That way, losses aren't real losses and you can try and learn yourself if that is something you are interested in. Just want to give that disclaimer. If you are not familiar or not comfortable with leverage trading, you really should not be doing it. You can get in trouble very, very quickly. So that would be, that's just kind of the preface that I want to give there. Now, moving along, let's take a look at the second piece of news here, which is Bloomberg actually just dropped some ETF approval odds for 2025. Now, for those of you who aren't aware, this is kind of piggybacking on the news that we'd seen recently, where essentially people were talking about the likelihoods of other ETFs opening up. Solana, XRP, and Litecoin, I believe, were the kind of the three that were mentioned explicitly. That, of course, is incredibly bullish news for crypto. This is something that I think will probably roll in exactly like what we're seeing here into other potential coins getting listed here. So we can see Sui just filed 1 month ago and already has a 60% chance of approval. I think things like what we just covered with Raoul Pal, we covered the Pokemon partnership a little while ago, we covered a Movie Pass partnership a little while back as well. A lot of these really high profile partnerships and development that's happening on Sui, I think is what's actually getting us to this 60% chance of approval. I think that seems to make sense to me. We can see here that's higher than Tron, ADA, and DOT, way ahead of other new L1s. So, I think it makes sense. I think it makes sense as to why we're seeing Sui have such a high chance already. There's obviously a ton of support behind it. There's a ton of building. There's a ton of partnerships, a lot of this type of stuff going on. And so, of course, I'll kind of let you intuit what could happen to price from there if something like this does happen. I think it'd be incredibly bullish, particularly when we're looking at the only other two ETFs being I think over 2 trillion in market cap at this point, and the other one being about 300 billion. So would be pretty massive for the project if that did end up happening. Now, of course, none of this is financial advice. This is all speculation. None of this news has been confirmed, I guess, other than the Raoul Pal stuff, but none of the ETF stuff has been confirmed. I'm not your financial advisor. You do need to be doing your own research. I, of course, am human and am not infallible. I can make mistakes. I can get my news wrong, things like that. So, I try very hard to be up to date on the most current stuff. But of course, I do, it doesn't make sense when people aren't essentially, taking responsibility for their own money. I think if you were to rationalize this in a different way, if you were to go to, a car dealership and you just said, oh, hey, here's, $5,000, $10,000, bring me back a car, no questions asked. I don't think many people would reasonably do that. I think there's a lot of people that they'd want to know, okay, well, what condition is it in? Does it run? Does it work? Does it have tires? Things like this, some of the obvious questions that you might ask. And I think that's what's important to understand when it comes to these types of projects. These are just my opinions. This is just stuff that I'm finding, news that I'm reading, a lot of this type of stuff. I could be coming to a wrong conclusion. And for you to not essentially be asking your own questions and doing your own research, in my opinion, would be irresponsible. So I just want to kind of cover that, maybe give it and provide it in a different type of context, just so you can kind of understand why, like, it's not just like a CYA. It is truly like you need to be doing your own research. It's better for you. And it's also better for me too, because, I don't know your situation. And so therefore, that's why I'm not a financial advisor. I can't recommend what would be good for you. So you really do just need to make sure that you are doing your own research and making sure that is making sense for you. So anyway, that is my very, very long and I guess longer than normal protracted disclaimer there, but I did just want to give some context there. But overall, if you did find the information in this video useful, a like and a subscribe really, really does help me out. It really does. I'm continuing to make videos daily at this point, always continuing to try to grow the channel. If you do, like and support the information, I do appreciate it. And also, if you have any comments, questions, thoughts, feelings, whatever, drop those in the comment section below. I do read and respond to all of those. So if you have anything that you want me to see, that'd be a great way to do so. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.